Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the original Mark Z channel. I am Zester, filling in for Pops this Friday. Thank you guys all so much for joining. For those worried, nothing wrong with the original Mark Z. He is just busy traveling at this point in time. Wasn't going to be any way for him to be here at the properly allotted time slot. And so I'm jumping in for today. As usual, we're going to get Mr. C, and I always really look forward to Fridays when I get an opportunity to jump in and help out because I get to quiz Mr. C. And so we'll go through, we'll have a little bit of banner time. I've got a bunch of breaking news articles to talk about, but then we will get straight over to Mr. C. And then at the very end, I'll be answering any crypto questions that anyone may have out there. And so if you've got a crypto question that you've been thinking about for a long time and you want an answer to, stay along for the long haul. Today, I will be answering crypto questions at the end. But what is up? Good morning. Good morning to all the mods. Thank you guys so much. Good morning, Jamie. Good morning, Triumphant. Farmer V looks like Mark used the med bed. Yeah, he lost a few years, lost a few decades real quick. Lost a few decades. Good morning, Bear. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Blokey. Good morning, Sissy. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up with all the good mornings. And as fast as I scroll, I cannot scroll fast enough. Good morning, Ditto Head. Good morning, Jim McCoy. No, we won't have any Matt today, but we did have Pops did a little recording deal with the CBD gurus talking about mushrooms yesterday. But otherwise, we won't have any CBD gurus today. It's just going to be a clean Mr. C day for the Friday. And then, of course, guys, we will have a fun one or two on Monday and Tuesday because I will be running the show on Monday and Tuesday. I've got lots that I'm looking forward to on both of those shows. Actually, looking forward to taking one of the days after we go through the news, after we go through everything, and present my little theorem that I have been working on in terms of what the grand strategies are of a lot of these different countries. Might do that on Tuesday. Steve Sullivan, Zester, do you ever offer a class in crypto seminars or classes? I do have over on the Crazy Cryptonaut. I answer questions for free and go through lessons twice a week, Monday and Fridays at noon. But I am thinking about opening up one-on-one classes. I could definitely use use a little bit of extra work in that fashion, and I think it would help a lot of folks out. But with all of that said, and I know so many good mornings that I have missed. Good morning to all of you. Guys, I will be singing happy birthday today. And so please do make certain to get that, make certain to get your name over to one of the moderators so that I don't forget you when it comes to happy birthday time. But without further ado, let's jump into a little bit of the breaking news of the day before I throw up the news banner. All right. Everything's a little different when you jump over to another person's setup. I had a few little hiccups this morning getting used to Pops's computer and all of that. But we do have currently breaking news. Apparently, the first survivors are getting pulled out of that flooded cave in Laos. Saw that one pop up right away. But beyond that, and what I think is, well, not that I'm not extremely excited for the folks that are being saved out of the caves. It is definitely exciting information. Seems a little bit like a distraction. But what I was particularly interested in is the market is now panicking not to panic. And so right now, something that we are seeing in the stock market in particular is a completely disconnected investor group. People are continuing to chase after the next big thing and completely ignoring the fundamental problem that everything is about to collapse in regards to the overall stock market. we're seeing that also in terms of, in particular, chip manufacturers, because yet another company has entered into the $1 trillion market cap club. This time, SK Hynix. They are a South Korean chip manufacturer, and they are the third chip manufacturer to surpass a $1 trillion market cap in just this month. Absolute crazed degrees of speculation going on in the stock market right now. And I think we've probably gotten long enough in order to make certain that no one is still stuck watching an ad. I'm going to go ahead and get our banner up because I do have an update on bonds coming from the original Mark Z. And so let me get that banner up so that anybody coming through real quick does not miss it. Guys, this comes directly from the original Mark Z, and his contacts, bond contacts, believe that they get released over this weekend. Rumors in Iraq that a peace deal with Iran has been struck and will be announced within the next 3 days. Al-Zaidi says that Iraq will now move away from socialism to a strong market economy. More factions of the PMF have announced they will lay down arms and join official security forces. A lot of serious progress in Iraq this week. And as a matter of fact, I actually have an article to add on to that one, which I think is really the proof in the pudding in regards to what the bond contacts are talking about, as we are seeing many of the different armed groups that were backed by Iran are beginning to put down their arms. In particular, our most recent one comes from Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, announced that his armed group, Saraya al-Salam, also known as the Peace Brigade, talk about a fairly ironic name, would separate from its political movement and integrate into state institutions. Sadr declared the complete separation of his armed group from his political party and its full integration into the state. This cleric previously led an armed faction that fought against American and Iraqi government forces. In recent years, though, he has begun to criticize the Tehran-backed groups. This seems to be backing up exactly what we are hearing and what we've been being told was supposed to be occurring at the same time. There are hundreds of different armed groups that have been operating in Iraq that have been being funded primarily by Iran. That has destabilized the Iraqi government, given Iran disproportionate control over the country, and also has allowed for Iran to continue to use Iraq essentially as a staging ground and as a highway in order to export their terrorism and their products to other countries around the Middle East. And so this seems to be an extremely positive sign in regards to Iraq starting to get far more stable and starting to kick out all of these Iranian-backed groups. In this situation, what I think is actually going to end up being really the MO, because we've already seen multiple armed groups do this. I have a feeling that you're going to see the vast majority of the Iranian-backed groups, when they're no longer receiving that funding from Iran, they're going to start fully integrating into the either the Iraqi government, into current Iraqi institutions, or they're just going to dissolve entirely. And so very positive news coming from the Iraq side. Bond contacts believe that it will be released over this weekend. I'll go ahead and put some words into Pops' mouth on that one and say I'm not planning on holding my breath, although there are a lot of things that are coming together that might make the time slot make sense. And so with that one, I'll go ahead and get the news banner off, jump back over to chatting with y'all and going through a few more news articles before we go ahead and get the Mr. C in here. I have been planning for this one. I've got a bunch of good questions, or well, I think they're good questions. They're questions that I am interested in hearing the answers to. And so I hope y'all are as excited as I am for Mr. C time. We will go through a few more articles, though, give him a little bit of time. But he has got my number, and so I know that we will have a Mr. C before too long. All right, though. Yes, as we continue to see this occur, Russia warns the United States against sending thousands of more troops near its borders, pushing towards a suicidal conflict. This is directly in regards to the move that President Trump has made of moving 5,000 troops from German US military bases over to US military bases in Poland. Essentially, Russia is angry that the United States is moving more and more forces closer to what they would call the direct conflict zone. This is not going to slow down. President Trump is making it very clear that while he intends for Europe to start paying to defend itself, it does not mean that President Trump plans on the United States completely letting down its barriers in regards to containing Russia. Ultimately, troops may be moving from Germany, maybe moving out of the UK. It doesn't mean that they're entirely leaving the European theater. And needless to say, Russia is not happy about that. This actually ties very well in to what I plan on talking about on Tuesday, talking about what the strategy behind Russia's moves are right now. Needless to say, Russia is not happy about the United States moving troops closer and closer to them. They see that very much as a backtrack on what Trump had said in regards to Putin being a friend and Russia not being our overall enemy. Russia views us moving 5,000 troops into Poland as being directly counter to that statement. And Poland itself, through its militarization efforts over the past 10 years, is really starting to scare most of Europe. It's going to be quite the thing when Poland is announced the most powerful nation in Europe. I think that it probably already is outside of Russia, but it's coming in the next couple of years if it's not already being declared today. And it fits well into history. If you want to throw back to go all the way back to the Crusades and back to the Reconquista of the Iberian Peninsula. This was during the rise and really the conquest of Islam over Europe. We ended up seeing the greatest resilience and the first major Crusader armies come out of where? Poland. And so we may be watching a very, very, very long historical cycle repeat itself on that one. All right, though. I wanted to make certain that we had some interesting ones today. And, well, the news did not disappoint. Fed seized $40 million in gold bars, cash, Rolexes from former CIA official who faked being a Navy pilot. David J. Rush allegedly claimed $40 million in gold bars and foreign currency for work-related expenses. This is a former senior CIA official with top secret security clearance arrested by the FBI, where they found $40 million of a variety of different things, primarily gold, stashed inside of his house. Of course, he is now being charged with theft of public money, swindling the government out of tens of millions. And where this story gets even more disturbing is the fact that he managed to trick all of these different government agencies into handing over well over $40 million with actually false credentials. And so he claimed that he was working in certain different military operations. None of that was true. He claimed that he had certain prior records in the U.S. military. None of that was true. Claimed to be the current director of tests for 145-person, 18 aircraft Joint Army-Navy's weapon test organization. Apparently, all of these false claims and all of this false documentation, apparently the FBI, the CIA, and the American government were not capable of determining that it was false documentation, and so they just kept handing over the money. I am absolutely certain that we are going to end up getting some more crazy details around this story. He even faked his educational credentials to boost his federal salary, claiming he held a bachelor's degree from Clemson University and a master's degree from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institution. None of those things were true. And then, just in order to make a little bit of extra money, Rush also scammed the government out of 77,000 in fraudulent military leave, claiming 744 hours of paid time off, telling his employer that he was actively serving as a Navy Reserve captain through September 2025. I am certain that we're going to end up hearing more about this one. This is just the breaking news type deal. I'm certain once more time has been taken and some more research has been done, we're going to find out that this fellow was busy in a variety of other sectors, and that's probably why they finally decided to catch him, because it doesn't sound like this guy was flying under the radar. It sounds like the radar was programmed to not find this guy. And the big one today, Pam Bondi is currently facing a closed-door questioning from House lawmakers over the Epstein files. That is supposed to be happening today. As a heads up, guys, there will not be any cameras inside of this deposition. It is a closed hearing. That's always a huge pain in the butt, because you always know that they leave out the important details when they go ahead and tell us about it after the fact. But maybe we will get some more information in regards to what happened with the handling of the Epstein files. With everything going on with Pam Bondi, though, right now, from the cancer diagnosis to the new position inside of the administration, lots of interesting things going on over there on the Bondi side. I don't expect for there to be any major reveals. I have a feeling that she will be fully lawyered up, and it will be a whole lot of I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. It's probably going to be the most repeated phrase during that questioning, but we will see. We will see. I don't want to get into too pessimistic of a mindset. Maybe we will finally get some portion of the truth. Well, we all knew it. We all knew it. Jill Biden has recently done an interview where she talked about how she was feeling as she watched her husband, Joe Biden, up on stage, struggling to remember where he even was. She's finally decided to come out and publicly speak in regards to that. And well, it's not good, and it's a lot of what we assumed. Jill Biden, when asked about watching her husband's disastrous debate performance against President Donald Trump, I wasn't horrified. I was frightened. I had never, ever seen Jill like that before. I don't know what happened. As I watched it, I said, oh my God, he's having a stroke. It scared me to death. During that debate, Joe Biden had whispered through his questions, famously saying that his administration had defeated Medicaid. And of course, we all were there. We all watched it. He had no idea what he was talking about, or even where he was at. And Democrats frustratingly maintained that it was just a momentary lapse. This isn't him normally. Look at all of these different staffers that can come out and tell you that he is sharp as a tack. Biden aides told Jake Tapper and me that they had seen him act that way before and after. Those moments became more and more difficult to predict and to conceal. Jill joined Biden for several campaigns after the event because of the fact that he was really falling apart so quickly. And yes, here's where folks are particularly angry about it, because remember, that's not what she was saying at the time. And so if she genuinely was frightened that he was having a stroke, any rational wife would have insisted he go straight to the hospital. Instead, she dragged him off to a Waffle House and patronized him on stage like a baby. Joe, you did such a great job. We all saw his incapacity for years. There is just no way that she was not also aware of the general mental state of her husband. So concerned that her husband had had a stroke during the debate that she started a 4 more years chant right after that. And so Joe Biden is currently going around and working the news circuit, trying to rewrite history and rewrite her role as wife to Joe Biden. Also, guys, we did see Blue Origin rocket explode during its latest testing. This one occurred just yesterday. No personnel were harmed in the incident. I do think, though, that there's a very interesting thought to consider with the fact that we are so regularly getting bombarded with news about these rocket launches and about the efforts towards moving towards the moon. And we're also seeing that same degree of intensity coming from other countries outside of the United States, in particular, China and Russia. It does seem as if we are in or the beginnings of a far more serious space race. But in this situation, in the same vein as Blue Origin, what was this rocket attempting to try and perfect? The idea is getting to the moon and establishing a base in order to extract resources from the moon. That's the same thing that we saw with NASA's recent move. They were out there scouting the actual area between the dark side and the light side of the moon, because that would most likely be the prime point for any form of colonization. Blue Origin is out there trying to conduct shuttle retrievals and to create launch pads that would be capable of deploying on the moon. Seems as if we plan on getting into some shenanigans on the moon before too long. And it looks like SpaceX is absolutely going to be at the forefront of that one, as Blue Origin, aka the Amazon or Jeff Bezos space company, appears to be struggling heartily. And so, with all of that, I am going to start looking to get Mr. C. That would cover most of the day's news that I found that were interesting on my side. At least up to this point. Lots to look forward to hearing about later in the day, specifically the Pam Bondi hearing. I've got a feeling we're going to get some good news out of that one. But otherwise, I'm going to start talking and chatting with y'all and getting everything set up for Mr. C so that we are ready. Savvy, like we don't know there's already people there. Well, that one is. And so, Savvy, the really interesting one on the fact, because I'm starting to think that you might have something there because of exactly where these different shuttles and these different explorations are being conducted. Because the prime landing spot on the moon, and so just so y'all know, I did a whole little deep dive. I got really interested in this one a few weeks back. What NASA and SpaceX are targeting is they're actually targeting landing essentially right on the light side, right before the dark side of the moon. Now, the reasoning behind this is the thought process that they will be able to utilize solar energy to power the facility on the light side. Okay. And so that solves the electricity problem. They're able to generate power. Well, there's one other problem. Where are we going to get water? We need water. We need power. With water and power, we can make food. Well, that's why they need to land right before the dark side, because that's how they plan on getting the water. They're planning on harvesting energy on the light side of the moon and harvesting water on the dark side of the moon. And the reason that this works is, remember that the moon does not have that same spinny deal going on that the Earth does. And so if you were to establish an outpost or your base literally half a mile from the dark side of the moon, it would be perpetually light at your base. You would have 24/7 solar power, and you would be able to harvest your water from just right down the road, where it would be 24/7 darkness, eternal darkness. Yeah, I don't know. That's just cool to me, and I thought that was extremely interesting. And when you take that bit of information and then you look at where all of these different shuttles are going, what they say that they're looking at, it starts to lend itself towards a pretty large conspiracy in regards to what they are up to. Belinda TX, don't believe in astronauts, only actor knots. Hey, it is awfully, awfully funny, those folks that escaped from Alcatraz. I'm just saying, they look awfully familiar. Awfully, awfully familiar. Yeah, I'll have to definitely get my tinfoil hat out for that one. Definitely. Yeah, TBA 3 one foot on the light side, the other foot on the dark side. So you want the bedrooms on the dark side of the kitchen on the light side. Pretty much that's pretty much what they're looking at. They're looking at putting that thing as close as they possibly can get. That way it is 100% always full functioning solar panel. And then at the same time, they have the opportunity to explore both the resources and the water that could be found on the dark side of the moon. All right, looking for any more good questions. Yeah, Deborah, Market talked about discussing wealth management options, trust options. Anyone have any suggestions or hear anything about that one? Deborah, the biggest ones I've seen is to first, at least this is not in any way or shape or form financial advice. This is just a matter of all the different very smart people that I've heard talk about it. Most everyone is just far more worried about making certain that you have a proper legal setup going into it, not bringing in any major problems. But otherwise, so much about the landscape is going to change. And so I know personally, my plan has always been to not be in a rush. Ultimately, we're going to probably be learning a lot about a whole entirely new landscape at that point in time. And so, not financial advice at all, Deborah, but a lot of the smartest folks that I have found out there, that tends to be what they're saying. They've got those initial things that they're going to jump straight into doing, finding that house, paying off those debts. But above and beyond that, most of them just have more of the general idea of the thing that they want to focus on. There we go. I have got a Mr. C ringing right now. Let me get him in here. Hey there, Mr. C.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you doing? Sorry there. I was just getting the phone set up on speaker and things like that.
No problem. They wouldn't let me dial in. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I saw your comment over there in the chat. But now, how are you doing this morning, Mr. C?
Pretty good. So far, so good. Say it that way.
All right.
Finally getting down to the end part. And I'm dealing with the time period when we were notified that Chris was seriously ill and dying, and there's nothing we can do about it but watch and wait. And it was unfortunate. And it's very tough to write about.
Yeah. Oh no, I have to imagine that it's an emotional topic.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
That's what it's looking like. It's looking like I've got you all set up just right now.
Super. Okay. Rock and roll.
Hey, awesome. Well, I guess we'll start things off first. I know I've got some questions, and of course I'll look to the community. But what's on Mr. C's radar right now?
Well, I'm looking forward to all this happening. It does seem very encouraging to me to see the large picture puzzle coming together in focus. So I'm seeing this happening in a very short time.
It seems like a lot is coming together in Iraq at this point in time. Yeah, I don't know if it's just the fall of Iran and finally getting that influence out of it, but From the outside looking in, it feels like things have definitely sped up.
Well, the rock is a factor, but it's not the factor for the RV in the U.S. But it's encouraging to me to see that Iraq is becoming more stabilized and ready to rock and roll.
Hmm. Now, what are you looking at right now? Kind of taking that kind of, we're working down that vein. What are the things that you're looking at the most right now? Well, what do you kind of view as being the canary in the coal mine? The ultimate factor to be paying attention to.
Actually, as far as I'm concerned, it's when the bond guys get their money, because we know that operation of law, according to the Gold Treaty, the next step is to come see me.
Hmm. So you're watching the bond guys primarily.
Correct.
Hmm. Well, I know from the many years working back and forth and hearing their updates and such, and I'm certain Pops would also jump in on that one. How do you feel about watching the Bond guys on that one? Do you think that they're going to get a serious heads up, or do you think that they're going to be just as surprised as the rest of us?
Well, concerning them getting fiat money, I'm not really looking for anybody to be surprised. I just think it's going to happen, but it's a timely operation. In other words, Iran has to be pretty much secured. We know the Ukraine is going to fold as soon as, with a peace deal, as soon as Iran is solved. Narco-terrorism is going to come in quickly thereafter because of Cuba. So all in all, I think we have this problem pretty much contained and ready to be resolved. At that point, then they come see me according to the protocols, and then we're off and running.
Hmm. Oh, I know that's one that I think that the speed in which things happen in this modern world have kind of numbed people. But watching what has gone on in the past 6 months, from the fall of Venezuela, the impending fall of Cuba, the impending fall of Iran, the hopefully very close to the conclusion in regards to Ukraine, to me, it feels like we've never had more positive news that the change is coming than ever before.
Well, I tell you, in 36 years, I agree. This is the most excited I have ever been. And yet, at the same time, I'm cautiously excited. Say it that way. We've been disappointed many times.
Hmm. Oh, that's good advice. That's for certain, because there's definitely been other times where it felt like and it seemed like everything was coming together and we were getting the indications, but now it feels like that snowball has turned into an avalanche.
Finally.
Hmm. And so, where do you kind of see that going? What do you see as being the next dominoes?
Actually, I think really what we're looking for right now is the bond guys to get paid. Um, there was a Supreme Court ruling last night, or 2 days ago, let's say it that way, that I have not been able to find evidence of on the screens, which is not surprising, where they ruled on injunctive relief. In other words, the district courts have been overstepping their jurisdiction and their authorities, and the Supreme Court just slapped them down, saying that only the plaintiff and the defendant can be participating in the injunction relief that was considered or given by the court. So they cannot do a nationwide stoppage of any federal executive order or execution of legislation. So that's very good. With that in mind, then we're going to see less of these roadblocks to getting this stuff done as far as the protocols for the Gold Treaty. So all in all, I'm just waiting for the basic step of the bond guys getting paid and then come see me.
That does make me think, when you talk about the bond guys, which bonds are included inside of that? Which bonds are not?
Well, the only bonds that are outside the Gold Treaty are the historical Chinese bonds, primarily. That's the railroad bonds, where they purchased in late 1800s to finance the U.S. Movement west, which after the I think it was 1870s, 1880s, with the ruling against the Chinese, basically being in the States and owning U.S. currency or U.S. Bonds was pretty much prohibited. At that point, they were not allowed to be paid, and so that's primarily what we're looking at: the Chinese historical bonds.
Okay. All right. Oh, I noticed some questions on that one, and also I was curious myself, and then that actually leads us to Bill Kuhn, who asks, "QQQ, how do we distinguish between a bond or a currency?"
A bond has an actual underwriting, and it has stipulations inside the bond text as to how they are paid. And in this case, they have been wrapped. When they assembled the gold treaty, they were wrapped separately to make sure that they were paid first, because that's basically the Pacific Rim, who were excluded from the Bretton Woods.
Mm, mm.
Currency is just currency; it's a bearer bond.
Mhm. Medium of exchange.
Correct.
Yeah. We've got a question from Allison, who actually super chatted. Thank you so much, Allison, for the super chat. And Allison asked, Mr. C, the fact that Vietnam is a dictatorial communist regime could prevent the revaluation of its currency? Question mark. What is your opinion in terms of that? And I guess I'll add a little onto that one. What is your opinion about a lot of these different countries that do have an important role to play, but are currently led by criminals, dictators, communists, etc.?
Well, number one, in the protocols, with all 217 plus signatories, the militaries are working with Interpol to collect and round up and shackle and perp walk the rats. That's number one. Number two is, regardless of what backing the government has, whether it's a dictatorship or communism or socialism or democracy or republic, it does not matter. If they're a signatory to the gold treaty, they're going to be included in the RV and the gold-backed currency. Again, with the QFS system, source of funds, use of funds, 99% of the use of funds for the continuation of socialism, communism, or dictatorship is going to be nullified. So I don't see that being a real problem. And it's not going to stop the RV from happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, there's going to be a lot of things that are just occurring simultaneously.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah, lots of moving parts. Lots and lots of moving parts. I'm looking through, trying to find the best of the different questions.
For example, Shadow Bearden, 137. If you hold a bond, a physical bond, you can tell in the text. If you don't hold it, you have no business to inquire.
Okay. Well, that's probably good information for those that are going up and are planning towards and looking forward to that exchange meeting. For those that have currencies versus those that have bonds, we know that's going to be a different situation.
Correct.
And yeah, so are the bond people going to be able to tell us though, or is it going to be very much one of those where the bond guy is going to be telling us that he's going to have to find a code?
That is a good question. I honestly don't know. I'm not involved in that particular process of repatriating those bonds, but I would imagine initially it's going to be an NDA, and then after that, once it comes to me, then it's open. It's free. It's open market. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Now, Angel Guard has another follow-up great question. I think. Of course, Angel Guard, just so you know, Mr. C is out there praying for you and for your family, and also is curious if the revaluation is only going to impact the United States.
No, it's worldwide. That's what makes this a very interesting situation. There have been attempts, actually some are already in the workings, to try to do an RV for the U.S. only. It cannot happen. an integral part of the revaluation is the complete dissolvement of all derivatives around the world on the banks, on everybody's balance sheets, and in a debt jubilee. You can't do that in one country only. It's just impossible today. If you take down one bank, let's say you take down Chase or Citibank or Bank of America in the U.S., you'd have to do it worldwide because they are impacted worldwide. They have subsidiaries worldwide. You cannot do it in one country only.
Oh, that makes perfect sense to me. We live in far too interconnected of a world. Everything is pegged to something else.
And that's the way it was designed, by the way, to make sure that nobody can do away with derivatives. Which, if you recall back in 06, 7, and 8, that was the mainstay for the release of tremendous amounts of cash to the banks and other financial institutions for their own purposes, because they had no underlying security to trade on. So they monetized mortgages using derivatives as the basis, which have no value whatever, which Paulson and Snow and the others found out.
Oh, here's a really good one. Ready to put on the tinfoil hat there, Mr. C. Real Dobby Tejas says, QQ for Mr. C. There are 1,500 to 2,500 quote unquote data centers under construction throughout the United States. Often, adding on some other stuff, often these facilities are out in the middle of nowhere, tends to be farmland. Could these, and this is the question from Real Dobby, could these facilities be prisons for the deep staters instead of data centers, in your opinion?
I doubt that 100%. The deep staters are going to be adjudicated by a tribunal, and there's no reason to have them housed in the U.S. They're going to be taken offshore, as they did in 2007 and later on. They put them in ships, took them offshore, and in 2007, the over 6,500 that were arrested in New York when I was there, put in buses, taken to Dulles, and flown overseas to the World Court for adjudication. So I don't see this. I think that's all part of the Soros propaganda machine to make sure that the data centers are not put together. Because if they are, think about what's going to happen. They are going to have their own independent energy facilities to help our infrastructure. That's huge. That is extremely huge, especially if they're fusion or nuclear power plants. Secondly, you're going to have us in the lead of the AI. Regardless of outlooks, we're going to have the lead. Nobody can get one step ahead of us by doing this. And I just believe that Soros right now is desperate to try to stop us in any way possible. And the fact that they're even talking about a political revolution is one step closer to the revolution that I've been talking about. And I do believe we're going to have one, whether it's in my lifetime or the next, when this group of stupids who have been educated through this propaganda operation become our age. At that point, there's going to be a real knife fight as to who controls this country.
Well, now you got me thinking now a lot, Mr. C. And so with the 1,521, we're hearing about it all the time. And we're hearing about it a lot of times. It's in context of farmland. And that's how it's being presented to us. Well, these data centers are taking up farmland. They're going to use this much power. They're going to cost this much to run. And that we need to get them in. We need to get them all over the place as fast as possible in order to combat China and Russia and, pick which other, any other boogeyman you want. And so you think that we're actually getting that propaganda, which is very much being targeted at conservatives. And you think that that propaganda is actually coming from the left.
Absolutely.
Oh, that one would be very interesting. That one would make sense. But it would make sense if that was a large part of maintaining the strength of the United States moving forward. And so in that regard, you view these data centers as being a matter of national security.
I believe so. Yes, I do. If you only have to listen to the progressive radicals who are basically communists. There's no other term for it. And it's against the law to be a member of the Communist Party of the United States, but nobody wants to enforce the law, which is the problem that we have across the board. When the Bush subcommittee stripped out the teeth from the enforcement regs for Wall Street, et cetera, the financial institutions, they basically set the stage for a dumbed-down community or dumbed-down generations to strike a blow to the Constitution. Everybody talks about the Constitution, but very few of the liberals want to follow the Constitution. And I think that's why we're going into a revolution. Yes, I do believe. Now, whether it's Soros physically or not, doesn't matter. He has put together a huge multi-trillion-dollar corporate laundering operation that's around the world. So when I talk about Soros, it's his legacy that I'm talking about. So I don't give a damn if he's alive or not. If he's dead, I want to dig him up and hang him again. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I totally get that. I feel like regularly we just kind of use a term in order to describe something because it's understood. You know, you say, oh, the folks like Soros are doing it. You drop his name, and then people immediately understand what you're talking about.
Well, that's who's funding the Progressive Party, and that's a known fact. Even the IRS knows that, which is why Trump declared them to be a terrorist operation. But unfortunately, they have not executed the proper, what shall we say, arrest operations to make sure that they no longer are funding. I don't know what he's waiting for.
Well, that one's very interesting. I'm going to be thinking on that one for a while because I had not immediately gone with in terms of some of the propaganda coming around in regards to the data centers. I was giving a lot of credit to the to all the tree huggers being a lot of the major proponents of the propaganda against the data centers because of how much water that they use. They so claim that they are, you know, as bad as it gets for the environment. But hey, the Soroses of the world, they use these things as tools, and maybe that's what they're doing with it right now.
These I won't say progressive. These liberal groups have been hijacked, and they can't get a podium because of the progressives. That's what's really interesting. They have frozen out the moderate terms, people, whether left or right, doesn't matter. And they have filled it full of socialist / communist operations. And if you look at every country that's been taken over by communism, this is how they started. This whole operation started back in the actually 1917, 1920, 1930s. It's just, you know, you have to look at history to see what's been going on.
I don't know. Well, lots to think about on that one. I'm gonna be my head's gonna be racing with all the theories on what they've got planned for us on that front. But I see one from Hubbard C with a question for you, Mr. C. Do you believe that the gold or asset-backed currency is ready and is just waiting for the codes? He goes on to say, it seems like the USA is a little way off unless they stop everything and put out the EBS.
Well, we've been ready for a long time. This treaty was put together and signed in 2013, March 2013. And ever since, it's been ready to operate, to execute. And it wasn't until 2019 that I know for a fact that President Trump realized what we had, what was in front of us, when I gave him my 300 documents, and I was vetted by everybody. And from that point on, we know that Trump, at least in theory, has signed off on the protocols and the treaty itself in November of 2019, but for whatever reason, declined actually executing it, even to this day.
Oh, that one's very interesting. So, yeah, and I guess it is. It's kind of difficult because we see so much kind of already currently going on. You know, we hear about the numbers that central banks around the world are hoarding gold. We see that they're making monthly purchases we see that the United States is kind of falling behind the eight ball on a lot of that. I think that's what kind of lends into this idea that it seems as if the stage is not set.
It's almost set, almost there, but not quite.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also it's I guess it's the same idea as when you got your homework assignment due on Tuesday morning class, and so you're sitting there in class on Tuesday trying to fill out as much of it as possible before the teacher calls it in. I wonder whether that's not also what's kind of going on around the world.
Very possible. I think what's happening is that when Trump realized what the gold treaty really meant, which was really a gold-backed dollar for the U.S., I think he bought into it. But the realization that he would have to step down as president, I think is something that's one step a little bit further than he wanted to go. So I think what's happened is he has co-opted the BRICS and reeled his way into the BRICS operation. And so I think what's really happening here, he's executing the protocols of the Sarah, which are the protocols of the Gold Treaty, to align himself. When the RV happens, the corporation will dissolve, but I think he's going to maintain some kind of overall control to make sure that it's a level playing field when the next election occurs.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Hey, well, here's one. Be a thinker. Backstory. Can Mr. C elaborate on what he saw in New York concerning taking people offshore for military tribunals?
I'm not sure when that was. Okay, wait a minute.
I think this was in relation to your experience in the past, as we were kind of talking about, whether the data centers were going to be prisons, and you said, no, they're going to be taken offshore. I think this is directly in regards to, is there any more you could share about?
Yeah, actually, those were not military tribunals. That was a rule of court ruling for the multitude of rule of court rulings and decrees that were issued through the late 1990s and early 2000s against Senior W. Obama, Clinton, Ron Emanuel, all of them. Those were not military tribunals. That was actually a court hearing for adjudication. In other words, they were sent to prison, and the families were told, forget about them. They're never coming back. Now, the military tribunal I'm talking about is out of Guam and Gitmo. That's already set aside for the what shall I say, the crimes against humanity, which include the banks, the major banks around the world, in particular, Wachovia, Bank America, Wells Fargo, and also Citibank. Those banks have to account for funding Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the rest of the rats, which we found in 2007. They were actually funding. They had a room guarded with somebody who actually had a weapon up, I think it was the 22nd, 23rd floor of Citibank, that had inside the room all the accounts, all the wire transfers of monies coming from the Clintons, Bushes, etc., to Al-Qaeda to fund their operation. So, yeah, it's two separate operations, but both are an adjudication of the rats.
Mm-hmm. And so they're as they're looking to do that, you do believe, is that going to be something like Guantanamo, especially with everything going on in Cuba right now? Yeah. The United States is making it pretty clear we're planning on putting some boots on the ground before too long.
Absolutely. And that stands to reason. I mean, right now it's being used as a depot for humanitarian effort because obviously the Cubans are in dire straits. But I think essentially we know that they've been building up a Gitmo for massive trials, and I think that's what's going to happen. I'm very encouraged by it. Plus, this past week I was told by the inside group of what shall we call, the old guys from the military and intel informed us this week that it's already been determined that the Delmarva scenario and the other with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD, and those other crimes against the American people will be occurring inside the tribunals, in military tribunals. Say it that way.
Do you see this being something that will be on the news? Is this going to be something as extreme and serious as like the Nuremberg trials? That was something where it didn't matter what rock you lived under in the United States of America. It was 24/7 coverage at a time when coverage like that was non-existent.
Absolutely. All you have to do is look at the millions of people who died as a result of the drug uh, infestation of this country, promoted and actually put together by the Eagle 2 operation of Bush Sr. And that's something that's just unbelievable. And that was coordinated by the CIA, which is not surprising that you would see CIA personnel with gold bars because they were involved. CIA had a dichotomy, had a split. Those that wanted to follow the rule of law and those that wanted to follow Bush Sr. And they extorted, killed, murdered, they did whatever they could to gain control over monies, and they fought over the poppy fields and the cocaine fields. Basically, that's it. So yeah, I do see that. And I do believe and I know for a fact that according to the Interpol guys, that the Golden Dragon was adamant the monies would not be released in the RV until there was a sufficient movement for a full disclosure of the perp walks. That's worldwide, and also so that everyone would know what the crimes were and how bad they were.
Mm. Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that because I feel like that's something that people are going to need. Maybe not all the folks here that the folks that have been paying attention that are aware, but for the unfortunately large majority of people who have been cosplaying as ostriches for the past few decades, they're going to need that to be public.
The truly unfortunate thing is there are certain myths, and I call them myths, that have not been delved into for reasons of national security. And the one is 9/11. 9/11 was not perpetrated by the Iraqis. It was not perpetrated by the Islamists. It was perpetrated by the CIA. And we have facts on that. That's one of the reasons why they killed Chris. He has facts to support that. And there were facts behind the scenes with Cheney and W and Senior in particular, to get rid of the evidence of the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that he stole from the American taxpayers in Building 7 of the World Trade Center. That's why they had to take him down. He took all the gold out of that, tried to smuggle it into the caves around Fort Hood, there was a firefight there, if you recall your history, back in 2007, where many people died, to recover that gold and take it offshore. 9/11, unfortunately, represents a true scar of American history, but it's unfortunate that the true facts are not coming out.
That one's going to be a tough one for them to really tell us the truth on. It's a traumatic event now in the largest voting demographic in the United States.
I agree.
I know as a millennial, that is a core memory of my childhood. I remember the classroom. I remember the day I was in 3rd grade. I remember my teacher. I remember everything about it. It's poignant and it's raw.
We knew that there was a significant day because Bill Bonney was scheduled to be at the World Trade Center to get paid that morning. He was specifically brought in supposedly to New York. He did not go, but he was there. He was scheduled to go there that morning to receive payment of several $100 billion that he was owed, that Bush Sr. had stolen from him again. And he was there. But the primary reason he was there, to be there, was to kill him. It was interesting. And it's unfortunate to me that nobody really knows that. As much as I have problems with Bill Bonney and Leo Wanta, they were instrumental in trying to fight this in their own way. But it's truly a sad state of affairs when the government itself, which is interesting because it's a corporation, did not want to point the finger at itself and say, we destroyed these buildings for a very selfish reason. We did not want to pay the money back.
Oh, well, then digging further into that one, what do you think are some of those other events or factors that are not things that we talk about, or things that you see in the mainstream media in regards to something like that? And so
that's in that book as well.
mhm.
Literally, as difficult as this is, there are many, many times when I really was tempted to stop writing because I'm reliving stuff that happened over the last 30 some years that are truly tragic in my mind. For example, this last weekend was very tough. I lost my son Memorial Day weekend in 1998. He was 26 at that time. And it was because they had driven a wedge in my family and kept me poor, so I could not help them. So yeah, it's very difficult. But that's what the basis of this book is about. I'm showing the backside of this whole environment, this whole scenario of this fraud, extortion, murder. And there was a lot of murder that happened around the world by the rats. And by that, I mean Bush Senior gang, the Clinton gang, also the Obama operation, the Mexican operation, the Mexican money laundering by the major banks. I'm bringing all this to light in an affidavit form. My intent is to show the people around the world this is what happened behind the scenes. Forget the policies. This is pure and upright, pure and simple financial terrorism by people that we elected to various posts in this government.
No, it's definitely going to be a must read. Well, and maybe it's one of those books though, as many of the other ones. I've got some on my shelf that it's a must read, and I always tell people that they need to read it, but I also tell people you're not going to have any fun reading it.
No, that's true. You're not going to hear any happy talk out of me on this one.
Yeah.
Because too many people that I knew died. Too many people that I thought were friends died and were killed. I mean, they just didn't die; they were killed, and it's unfortunate. I've had others who were threatened. I know I was. I had 2 mafia type contracts on me, which for some reason senior stopped, which was amazing because those contracts came out of Cheney after I sent my package to him in 2002 to the White House telling him he was involved in extortion against me to try to take my companies away again. And it's extremely, it's a hell of a story, but it's contrary to the propaganda that we've heard for the last 30-some years.
Well, to kind of tie it to something that's grabbed the internet's attention, because I think that's one thing also to kind of imagine and to consider, that Mr. C, as all these things are occurring, we still lived in a world where it wasn't possible for something like this, like what we're doing right now, to occur, where you can speak and they can't stop it.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a huge blessing, and it does make me think, though. Now, look at all of the scientists that have been disappearing in regards to having worked at some of the different Carnegie Mellon NASA-based organizations. We've seen a long list, and I'm certain the 20-30 scientists that have all had mysterious accidents since that are just a small drop in the bucket of how many people have been quote unquote silenced. It almost makes me kind of want to draw a correlation between what we're seeing right now in terms of all the scientists disappearing that happen to work at a research laboratory and just happen to be at a certain time, and the trials and tribulations that you and everyone went through. It seems like there could be a similar modus operandi in terms of how the powers that be treated them.
Well, if you look at what the basis of all this is, this: the CIA promoted and actually got passed a piece of legislation in 1949 called the CIA, the Central Intelligence Act, the Central Intelligence Agency Act, which made them above and beyond any legal action that can be taken against them by the United States government or in the United States courts. They are exempt from prosecution. Therefore, they gave them free reins to do anything they wanted. And this is part of the Eagle 2 operation. So, yeah, I have a real problem with that. And it's still going on. I was told by the Interpol guys that at the end of all this, the CIA is pretty much going to be, what shall we say, incapacitated to the point where they cannot operate because they already do a massive job of out CIA, out CIA, NSA on the telephone operation. They have actually recorded every conversation held over the big years around the world by the big five or big six. So yeah, it's all inclusive in this one little circle. The CIA has to be done away.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All of our intelligence agencies and intelligence agencies of some of our supposed allies all seem to be a major problem in really maintaining the status quo.
I agree.
All right, though. Getting into kind of some other ones. I think we could dig into one heck of a rabbit hole on that one. But I do see here a few questions regarding prosperity programs. If there was anything you had heard or any thoughts that you had on prosperity programs that people have been a part of and that they've joined.
Well, they still exist on the books for payment. They've been stopped, obviously, and they're still there. And they all come after the fact. When I put the codes in, they get paid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I did see some folks here. So do you think that story I covered, the Fed seized the 40 million in gold bars from the former CIA official? Do you draw any type of thoughts from that? Does that make you think that it's a part of all of the rest of this? It is an incredibly suspicious story that I'm just right now. It's such breaking news. We don't know what all this guy was a part of.
It gives you a great insight into the schism inside the CIA. How could he blindside these people with non-existent credentials? That's easy. They're all liars.
Yeah,
it's very easy. And they can't prosecute anybody. That's why the FBI has to do it. And it's very, very interesting. They can't investigate their own people. Look at what's been going on inside the CIA. You have Eglinton, who was very much cozied up with the UK co-communist in the 60s and 70s. They were chasing their own tail as far as the various spies that we had. And the fact that Bush Sr. was able to co-opt the CIA to do its own dirty operations, to collect money off balance sheet, to fund the CIA operation, to take control of the world politically as well as economically. It's just unbelievable. Many of these companies in the Fortune 500, the boards of directors of CIAs and the CEOs were selected by the Bush operation, specifically for their cooperation inside the Eagle 2 operation. So, yeah, it's quite interesting.
Now, seems like one of those too suspicious of a circumstance type situations. And yeah, the Central Intelligence Agency doesn't have the intelligence to figure out that their own operatives are lying to them. Doesn't seem like either a bunch of people in the CIA should be getting fired because they weren't aware of it, or we've got a bigger question.
Well, they need to be taken out and hung. Absolutely. The 2020 fiasco is based upon the CIA primarily. Pascal was in Germany, making sure that they could fudge the numbers. No, the CIA has to be dealt with in open and with a lot of room.
Now, CIA, an agency that it's not ours, but it starts with an M and ends with a D. There's a lot of them that I'm particularly worried about, and I think that it's probably fairly telling that I'm more afraid of saying a foreign agency's intelligence name than I am our own.
Correct. And by the way, I do not have the codes. I will not get the codes until I'm visiting.
No, I'm glad that you said that, because that's a regular one because folks they're like, hey, if you had them, why aren't you putting them in?
I would. Let me tell you, I would. I'd force the issue, but they don't. They don't trust me with them, so therefore, that's what we have.
Well, from everything and all of our previous conversations on that one, that your role in terms of it is really it's a already established. It's a contractual step that they have to take, but it's just that step that they have to take.
Well, I'm in the treaty because the Golden Dragon decided that I was the only American who could stand up to senior and survive, which I guess is a real kudos to whomever. But when I did my master's thesis, I became untouchable, and that came right from the seniors people. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's a very interesting scenario. But again, I was the only one who was willing to stand up and say no. I was the only one who was willing to work with Chris and explain exactly how things operated and how things were moving. Contrary to Leo, we had many arguments, many fights, major fights, screaming fights in 2007 and on, because I believe in disclosure and I believe in oversight. And obviously he couldn't because he worked for Senior and not Reagan.
Well, David has, I guess this one's kind of an interesting what if. What if they give you the codes and it's the wrong code?
That won't be possible. When you have the team arrive, there are going to be Treasury people here, military people here, people representing the Bank of China, and people representing the Golden Dragon family and Interpol. None of them are going to give me false codes.
Now, to give people a little bit of a last little history type question, which I appreciate how long you've been hanging out and answering questions, Mr. C. By the way, how close has that gotten in terms of everybody showing up, you being told that codes were coming? Well, what's the closest that's ever made it to a touchdown?
Well, I had the Interpol guys standing by, ready to fly in. This was in 2013 and again in 2016. It's amazing to me. We've had many times. We've been so close, but it never occurred because it was always whack-a-mole. And that's why not only do we have the Gold Treaty, but we have the Moscow Agreement of August of 2013, with an agreement between Xi and Putin to do anything under the sun necessary to collapse and make sure that the corporation is gone before the RV occurred. And that was just a mandate. And they paralleled what they did is they turned the Reagan DDSs against the United States corporation, which is very interesting. But that's been close many times. But frankly, the only thing that makes me excited right now is the fact that Trump is this close to having it done. Let's just cross our fingers and hope like heck it does.
Now, on that one, and I know dates and everything like that, always a sticky wicket, but do you see July 4th as being this very important date that needs to be achieved? Or are we kind of placing a little bit too much of a, we're trying to take a holiday and make it into something else? What are your thoughts on that one? I know a lot of folks, and this has been coming out since early in the year, a lot of folks have been saying July 4th, July 4th, July 4th. And actually, we've had some very odd things be said that they were planning on being either passed by legislation or whether they were planning on being announced on July 4th. What are your thoughts on that time?
Well, July 4th is a hopeful event, and it's unfortunate. But, over the past 30-some years, it always happens. Everybody picks a date out of the air and says, this is the date, based on nothing. And it's a hopeful thought, but that's all it is. Whether it's July 4th, whether it's after the November midterm elections, I have no idea. And that was done specifically because the Golden Dragon wanted to make sure that the money would be safe once it was released, that all the rats would be picked up, and that everything would be okay. That has not occurred yet. So it's just a hopeful time.
Yeah. No, that one makes sense. And then, so I will then, Mr. C, I'm going to hit you with a final, very much your opinion based question, because we have just heard that President Trump has entered into the Situation Room for a final determination in regards to the Iranian conflict. We know that we know they've been going back and forth over the details and such for a very, very long time at this point. What do you think that final determination is going to be? Is Trump, what's going to be his move on the Iran conflict today?
In my opinion, Trump has the problem of not being able to recognize that there are certain people you cannot make a deal with. Period. End of story. They lie, they cheat, they will never, never, never honor their own word. Therefore, when it comes to the point where he understands that, then he's going to take them out militarily, and that'll be that. As long as there's one Revolutionary Guard in the government, there's always the chance they're going to make sure that they do not honor their word and they come at us again. They've got to be dealt with, finally, definitely, with military weaponry and taken out of the picture. There's no other way to solve this problem.
So you're not too. You're either he's going to come out and announce that Iran has fully capitulated, or we're going to continue to see operations in Iran.
Well, it's interesting because you keep seeing him amending the deal that he made, or deals that are being made, and unfortunately, every time you turn around, the Iranians are sidestepping the main issue, and I think it's quite possible that, when you look at the domestic situation, no matter what Trump is saying, he really has to make sure the domestic population is reasonably happy with what's going on with their affordability prices. And that's not occurring. Prices are going up no matter what. And I'm shocked, even myself. Our insurance for just my wife and I have gone up more than $2,000 a year. It's incredible. But yet there's no end in sight. So we've got to look at this and say, enough is enough. Get this finished, get it done, get the prices down where you promised they would be, and that's that. Therefore, in my opinion, he has no choice but to militarily take these people out.
Just no other option. They're not going to quit.
You can't be a good guy to everybody in this world.
Well, that does seem to be true. Not if you plan on getting things done.
Absolutely.
Not if you do. Well, all right, though, Mr. C. Thank you so much for joining today. It seems like the folks had folks really enjoyed a lot of what you had to share.
We really got into the nitty gritty today. I want to thank Lyman. I appreciate it very, very much. And also the fact that I appreciate the time to be able to get on the soapbox and just tell people what I think. I don't know what it means, really. I just was one of those characters in the background that got screwed big time. Lost a lot of people in my family and other friends based on these rats. And I want to see them hung. I truly, truly want to see them hung. But because otherwise there's no justice in the world. But thank you very much. And let us hope that it's soon. I'd be very, very, very happy if they showed up tonight or tomorrow night. It'd be tremendous.
Yep.
But in the meantime, I shall see you or your father next week.
Oh, no. Thank you so much, Mr. C. And I know that both myself and Pops and also everyone in the community, we appreciate you getting that opportunity to get up on your soapbox.
Have a good week.
Hey, will do. You have a blessed weekend.
Thanks. Bye now.
Oh, man. So many thanks to Mr. C for making certain to take the time each week. I know that I really enjoy getting to ask all the questions. I look forward to it. And the community, y'all always find out even better questions. I thought I was all prepared, and then I had the best questions ready, and turns out now. It is always great. Always great. Now, I'll be looking forward to next Friday. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. Grandma loves you. That's pro at asking the right questions. Thanks so much, Zester. And thanks, Mr. C. Now, all credit goes to Mr. C entirely. I am just happy to get to be the person who asks the questions. That's because I get to throw in, my little extra on top of each question. That always makes me think of something. And so, with that one, guys, that is going to be wrapping up the normal programming. I'm going to go ahead and do a happy birthday to all those that are celebrating. At least I assume there've got to be some birthdays going on out there in the community. And then I will answer crypto questions. We'll probably spend, we'll spend however much time that we do on that one. And so if folks do have crypto questions, as soon as I get done singing a happy birthday, we will go for answering some of those. Oh, thank you guys all so much. Yeah, Sluggo, that's was prepared today. Even combed his hair. Now, don't worry, Sluggo. It's just cooperating today. It's just cooperating today. My hair is very, very, very moody in regards to how it chooses to act. Today, it seems to be in a pretty good mood, all things considered. It's in that fine line before I need to go get another haircut. And I did notice some folks commenting, yes, those are gray hairs. My wisdom is showing. My wisdom is showing. Which also, if I ever get the opportunity to run an advertising campaign for men's hair or anything of that nature, I know what I'm going for. Your wisdom's showing. All right, though. Let's go ahead and I'll go for the birthday. I didn't see. Oh, there it is. Galen, happy birthday. All right, all right. And then absolutely a happy birthday to anyone I do not mention by name. Know that this goes out to you at the same time and to your loved ones before we jump into crypto chat. Mika, just dye your hair blonde. All right, no more distractions. So they tell me it's your birthday. Well, happy birthday, darling. May you live, may you love, may all your dreams come true. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Galen out there celebrating and to everyone else celebrating a birthday today, including all of your loved ones, friends, acquaintances, etc. Thank you guys all so much for joining and for tolerating Pops and I's renditions of the birthday song. It is very much appreciated. And also all the positive comments are definitely going to inflate the ego. I'm going to be ready to go out for American Idol. Ready to go for it. I'll start my music career very, very soon. Very, very soon. But all right, guys, thank you so much. And we are now going to jump over to talking about everything crypto related. Everything crypto related. Steve, I appreciate you keeping my ego in check. Don't quit your day job. I think that's probably good advice. I think that's probably good advice. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. No, it is. It's the wisdom showing. It's just the wisdom showing. Plus, it seems like having a little bit kind of going, I don't know. I've definitely not heard any complaints. I've definitely not heard any complaints. I think I was the only one that was a little worried when I noticed it after the barber said, "Man, you got a good amount of gray and white coming in." I was like, who are you talking about?" I took it a little personal at first. Only a little. But all right, guys, it is crypto convo time. Happy to be answering anything that y'all might be curious about. Have you ever heard of a crypto called Four? Asked Prudence Potts. No, I have not heard of a crypto called For. I'll have to look that one up. What is the best wallet to set up? And so, Prudence, in my opinion, I'm a big fan of the Ledger hardware wallets if you're talking about a hardware wallet. Now, keep in mind though, guys, hardware wallets cost money. When you're just getting started into crypto, there are software wallets like MetaMask that are free, absolutely no cost. They are far less secure than a hardware wallet, but they're definitely a good stepping stone and tool in terms of that process, because there's no point in buying $100 hardware wallet if you don't have any crypto yet. At least that's my opinion on it. If you are planning on making some really big moves, especially after everything is said and done, that could easily change. All right. Oh, Darlene, it's your birthday today. Well, my rendition went out to you as well, Darlene. A happy, happy birthday to you. Oh, and I did. I tried to miss this one earlier. I don't know if I was chatting with Mr. C or not at the time, but us optimistical gal with the super chat. Thank you so much, optimistical gal. My apologies for missing that earlier. All right. Okay. Tina Poling. Great. Zester, how do I know a cold wallet from any other one? What is Binance US? All right, Tina. Well, that's a very good question. And Binance US is a centralized exchange. I'll go ahead and answer the easy one first. Binance US is a centralized exchange. It is just Binance, which is an international company. Binance EU is the major form of that exchange, but they launched Binance US, I think back in 2019, in order to cater to the rules and the regulations in the United States market. And so that's all that one is, Tina. Binance US is just an exchange. And when I say the word exchange, I think that the easiest way for people to really understand it is to place it into the context of currency. And so think about like a currency exchange at the airport. You're planning on making a trip to Vietnam. What do you need? You need to exchange US dollars for Vietnamese dong. And so you go to the currency exchange, you give them doll hairs, they give you Vietnamese dong. Think about an exchange in the crypto realm as exactly the same thing. Would you leave your money at the exchange once you had exchanged it? Would you go and exchange US dollars for Vietnamese dong and then be like, you just hold on to the Vietnamese dong for me? Now, you would put it into your own wallet. And so, Tina, that's kind of a very oversimplified way of viewing what these centralized exchanges are for. There's Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, Uphold. There's millions of them. What they're for is for exchanging fiat to crypto, crypto to other cryptos, and then crypto back to fiat. And so, in terms of that one, that's what it is. Same idea as the rest of them. Now, how do you know a cold wallet from any other one, Tina? That question gets a little bit more difficult to give a really, really easy answer on. What a cold wallet is a wallet that is not connected directly to the internet. It is not based off of software. It is physical hardware. That's why you'll often hear these two different wallets referred to as software versus hardware. On a hardware wallet or a cold wallet, your 24 words or your 12 words, your secret phrase, which is actually what controls the crypto, is protected and hidden on side of an encrypted chip. Hardware. It's physically secured. Now, a software wallet, which are free, like MetaMask or all the rest of them, those are software wallets that are secured, guess where? Through code via software. And so they have to connect to the internet. They have to interact with things in a very different way. And so, Tina, any free wallet, any software wallet is a hot wallet. Any physical wallet, like you bought a physical device, you hold a physical device in your hand, that would be a hardware wallet or a cold wallet. I hope that helped in terms of how I described that one. Ah, the Lord is my shepherd. My African gray bird just started to sing with you since they hear your dad every day. That is too cute. We need a video, the Lord is my shepherd, of your African gray singing along. Mia, crypto question. In the near future, will we be able to stake XRP on our Ledger Nano S Plus? And will you please help us when it's time? Mia, I absolutely will be helping you when it is time. And yes, I strongly believe that you will in the future be able to stake your XRP directly from the Nano S Plus or from any other hardware wallet. XRP is moving towards far more staking options, especially with the continuation of the tokenization of real world assets. We should start to see far more staking opportunities occurring. Right now, for Americans, we still have crap options for staking our XRP. We absolutely do. I know whenever I talk with Paul Brooker over there from Charlie Ward, I am continually jealous of the staking options that they have for XRP. And so on that one, guys, I'm absolutely positive that you're going to be able to, that we're all going to be able to. The entire holdup, that's one that you send a letter to your representative on, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But yes, Mia, I strongly believe that we will be, and I will absolutely be showing you. Hey, family man, it may help with gray hair if you use pink sea salt and Himalayan shilajit. As a matter of fact, I just noticed as I'm sitting here next to Pops' desk, that shilajit just so happens to be sitting here. People are amazed that your hair isn't totally gray at almost 71. Oh, congratulations, family man. And I might have to look into that one. If it starts to get too gray, it won't be a fashion statement. It'll start to be an aging statement. Right now, I'm happy with it, but I will remember that one. I will remember that one, family man. If it starts going too gray. All right. Patriot, question. What is the best free and secure wallet? And so, all right, Patriot, that one's tough because there's lots of them out there that are pretty much just copies of the same thing. What I use and what I tend to recommend, and you'll notice this is a little bit of a mantra of mine. I like to use the guys that have been around the longest and have had the least problems. And so I use MetaMask. It's a little fox. It's its little icon. It actually integrates directly into your browser. And you can also download the same wallet onto your phone. And so MetaMask is actually the free software wallet that I choose to use. But Patriot, please do remember, when it comes down to that secure statement, a hot wallet or a software wallet is safe if you treat it properly. And so I would not necessarily call MetaMask or any software wallet a secure wallet. They are a tool and they are perfectly safe if you use them properly. But there are a lot of potential pitfalls inside of those software wallets. And so in regards to that one, Patriot, I would say MetaMask, but I would provide one caveat in that secure is kind of a difficult word to use when it comes to any free wallet. Badavinik, are all currencies going to be paid via crypto? Badavinik, that's a great question. And I think that it honestly digs into the heart of a lot of folks' confusion over the shift to the new financial system with blockchain technology. Badavinik, what's really going to change is not how the car looks, it's how the car runs. It's the engine that's getting replaced. And so what I mean by that is that Badavinik, our currencies are not necessarily paid via crypto, They are transacted via the technology of the blockchain. And that is really what the major shift is all about. What that means, though, is that yes, you will then be able to exchange back and forth between, a currency backed by gold, a currency backed by silver, US dollars, etc. And I just use those as examples. But what I mean is you will then have the ability to make those decisions. You will be able to move back and forth between certain tokenized real world assets. What's really changing is what occurs in the background. And by changing what occurs in the background, it drastically changes what we are capable of doing when we interact with our money. Oh, and Golden Zester, do we really need to become crypto expert now? Or will it be spoon-fed after the RV? It's totally confusing me right now. I'm just trying to keep up with info for this period. And Golden, I totally get that. And thank you so much for trying to keep up and along with it. And Golden, I don't think that anybody needs to be a crypto expert. Well, I mean, obviously we need to have some. But what happens to it is that you need to understand how it works. Yes, you need to understand that. You need to understand the basics. And the reason that I say that is because look at where we're at. Look at where our politicians and those in power have been capable of leading us to. Ultimately, if people do not choose to have an understanding of how blockchain technology works and what it means in terms of the change to our financial system, it will eventually be taken advantage of. And so I strongly believe that people need to have the basic understanding and over what cryptocurrency is and what it means in terms of a change, because it's far more than just money. It's ownership of everything. It's you having this first time in all of human history, you having the right to actually own your data, to actually own your house, to actually own your money. It's the first time ever. It's never happened in all of human history. And so, with that, if people understand it, learn about it, and protect it and defend what it has provided them the opportunity to have, then we're moving towards a very, very good and a very prosperous future. And the most important thing here is that if people do not learn and understand how this technology works, it will be used against us. Because you do not have to call it a central bank digital currency to take full control. You merely need us to be ignorant. And so in that regard, Anne, do I think that people need to be a professional at sending cryptocurrency around? No, you don't need to be. It's going to get easier and easier and easier and easier to do. But you absolutely 1000% of the way, you have got to understand this technology. If you do not understand this technology, then those that have ill wishes will use this technology to take away everything. Because this technology is definitely a crossroads. We have the ability to go towards a dystopian future that makes 1984 look like Hello Kitty. Or we have the opportunity to go to a fully decentralized, fully autonomous world where everyone is capable of owning their data, owning their future, and controlling what is done with their money. We have really two different futures to look at. And the reason it's so important that people understand it is because this all may happen. And for the first 10 years, it may be great. But ultimately, we know what humans do. And eventually, they will try to take it away. And if people do not understand how it works, it's going to be very easy to take away. And so, Anne, I'm sorry for my response to that one. I ended up going probably way off from what you were really asking. But ultimately, that is the reason that people, in my opinion, need to be so knowledgeable. It is not so that you will know how to send XRP around or things like that. That's important. That's great information to have. It is valuable. But the most valuable part of it is understanding that with this shift to the new financial system, this is the technology that underlies it. This is how that technology works. This is how that technology can make our lives better. And this is the danger that this technology presents. It is the same thing as when you look at nuclear energy and the common discussions that are had around it. Nuclear energy is unlimited power at insanely cheap prices, or it is blow up and destroy the entire planet. It's a catch-22. It's an invention that can be used for good or can be used for evil. And that is absolutely what blockchain technology is. It is an invention. It is immoral. It's amoral, I should say. It's amoral. It does not care. It does what it is told. It repeats what it is told to repeat. It will operate exactly as it is told to operate. And that means that it is not it that is evil or good. It is the creator of it that is evil or good. And so it's going to always be extremely important that people remain knowledgeable and get far more knowledgeable about how this technology works, because it will always be a potential threat. Always. And so in that regard, it's understanding how it works. It's not necessarily knowing which crypto to buy, or having bought one crypto at just the perfect price. Those things are cool. And those things are definitely profitable, but that, in my opinion, is not what everyone needs to be concerned about. Mumsy, how do you pass on crypto to a beneficiary? That's a great question, Mumsy. And so right now, what most folks do is they place it in terms of with the lawyer. And so typically that would be done when you're going through and you're assigning out the will. You're going to need to assign out where those 24 words, your secret phrases are, and who they are going to. That can be handled either through inheritance management and things of that nature, or it could be handled in a far more personal way, Mumsy. It could be handled in just the form or fashion of having made it clear that this person knows where to go and get that information. Remember, it is just those words. Whoever holds those 24 words holds the crypto. And so whether that's 12 words, I actually did a great show on this one on Monday for anyone who's curious. Over on the Crazy Cryptonaut, I did a huge show and a deep dive into your secret words and what they mean. And that's your 12 to 24 words that you wrote down when you were creating your own self-custodian wallet. But you could always just assign those to someone as well, Mumsy. Essentially, if you have that type of relationship with family or to whoever is meant to be your beneficiary, and you have that degree of trust and understanding, you just tell them where those words are. And the second that they pick up that piece of paper, they have just inherited your crypto and full control over it. And so in that regard, Mumsy, personally, I would kind of lean more towards, until things are really set in stone about how inheritance works on cryptocurrency, I kind of lean more towards that we have to figure it out ourselves stance, which means you need somebody in your family, whoever that beneficiary is, whoever the executor of your will is, that would be the one person on this planet who knew where your 24 words were. Because if they know where they're at, you don't need anything else. It's done. Split it up. All right. Looking for more questions. The only Roy Hobbs. Zester, if one wants to get into the crypto world, how would you instruct them to do that when looking for the original crypto and a wallet? And so, of course, yeah, I'm glad that you said it. Not financial advice, but the only Roy Hobbs, I actually did a great video. Well, I say a great video. That sounds a little bit self-congratulatory. I thought it was a pretty good video where I talked about someone who is first getting into cryptocurrency. And so what my recommendations are, the only Roy Hobbs, is probably to go watch that video. I'm certain Mile High Trish probably knows exactly where it's at. I wish I had it all pulled up, but being on Pops' system, it's a little bit hard to do some of those things. But first things that I always say when it comes down to it is you need to get yourself into the right mental state. And so that is from going through and having a basic understanding, et cetera, et cetera. And that really comes before you go and make any decision on which ones you're going to buy. But number one thing that I recommend is you've got to get a centralized exchange account. And so before you go overthinking anything besides that, you need a centralized exchange account. That is honestly step number one. You cannot on-ramp and off-ramp from fiat to crypto without one, at least not at an efficient price. And so you get a centralized exchange account. Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken. This changes based off of where you're based across the planet. But in the United States, Coinbase, Gemini, crypto.com, plenty of good options. Pick one that is established in your country. Don't go picking some exchange that is headquartered in China, because if anything goes wrong, you're going to have a really hard time and you're going to have to buy a very expensive plane ticket. And so finding a centralized exchange, number one, first thing, absolute necessity. Anybody who's first getting into crypto, even people that have already been in cryptocurrency a long time, when you first get into it, if you haven't done this lesson, you need to do it. You need to take $10 and you need to put $10 into a cryptocurrency, and you need to trade that $10 back and forth between different cryptos. You need to send it to your Ledger hardware wallet, send it to your software wallet, send it to a buddy and have him send it back. The process of sending crypto or working with cryptocurrency is the exact same, regardless of whether it is $1 or $1 billion. And so my number one tip that will save you from ever getting screwed over is put $10 into crypto and do everything with it. Go ahead and mentally lose that $10 and use that $10 as a learning exercise. Go in, buy $10 of Bitcoin, make a MetaMask wallet with a Bitcoin wallet address on it, send it from Coinbase where you bought it to that MetaMask wallet, see how gas fees work, see how the blockchain works, and then send it back to your Coinbase account, and then exchange it to Ethereum on Coinbase, and then send your Ethereum out, and then bring it back to the exchange and trade it over to XRP, and then send that out. You can learn how to be a crypto professional for such a small price tag. And I think that's the number one thing that everybody has done wrong in crypto, is that they jump into crypto and they go, I need to put 10 grand in XRP. And I have no idea how a wallet works, no idea how an exchange works, no idea how this technology works. And I don't even know what XRP does. That is what has resulted in so many massive losses. So first things first, get an exchange account. Second, lose $10. Then come back and we'll work from there, because that's the solid foundation that allows you to work towards a complete understanding and actually holding a portfolio of cryptocurrencies. That will have taught you everything you need to know, essentially. Somebody needs to make an app for that. That would be really, really cool, actually. That would be really, really cool. Jennifer Perkins, Xi Jinping, or Changpeng Zhao, also known as CZ. CZ is really what he's just always known as. He was the original creator of Binance, the largest cryptocurrency exchange on the planet. He is an extremely interesting and extremely intelligent human being, but yes, he has been plagued by legal problems since absolutely forever. I've always avoided keeping money on Binance, but I would say back in the day, before the Trump administration in his first term banned Americans from utilizing Binance.eu, it was my favorite exchange, and I still want it back. But yes, I would definitely be cautious around anything Binance related right now. Prudence Pots. I have XRP and XLM in Coinbase. Should I just leave them there or move? And so Prudence, that's a great question. And this always gets in to a little bit of the weeds because Prudence, there's nothing wrong with keeping your crypto on the exchange. There shouldn't be anything wrong. All you have to remember, though, Prudence, is that you are trusting it to someone else. You are trusting Coinbase to keep your crypto safe. If you bring it onto your own wallet, who are you trusting to keep it safe? Yourself. And so we have the extra point of failure. And we do then have the fact that they technically hold your crypto. They technically own it. This is the same one that always drives, you want to drive some folks in a casual conversation crazy. Have a conversation with them about how much money they have in the bank. I'm telling you guys all, we do not have any money. If your money's in the bank, it's not your money. It's the bank's money. And the bank gives you the privilege of choosing to spend their money. It's not your money. It's the same idea here. Whenever it comes down to the cryptocurrencies, when you're on an exchange, you are trusting them. And so there's nothing wrong with that, Prudence, if you trust them. Prudence, I keep crypto in Coinbase and in centralized exchanges on a regular basis. What I don't do is keep my long-term holdings. So, Prudence, I keep a couple $100 on exchanges so that I can buy crypto, exchange crypto, so that I'm ready to move. But ultimately, as soon as I buy some crypto that I'm planning on holding on to, it's going over to my Ledger hardware wallet. And so I always make that separation between how should you view a centralized exchange or a software wallet. You should view it the same way as you view your wallet. Once it reaches an amount of money inside of this wallet that would be problematic to be walking around with, it needs to go to a hardware wallet. That's the time. Because you're not going to walk around every day with your retirement in your pocket, are you? No. That is Fort Knox. That's in the gun safe. That's being saved for the future. And so centralized exchanges like Coinbase view them like your wallet. It's spending money. It's the money that you might need to spend at some point soon. It's not necessarily your place to store your long-term funds. And so there's nothing wrong, Prudence. You don't need to go running out and freaking out and doing anything quickly at all. But I do recommend doing that little mental math. All right. And what am I keeping in Coinbase? As it started to get to the point where it's no longer wallet or purse money, and it's turned into this should be in a safe types of money. That's different for every single person. And I know that that's different for every single person because I have worked with and consulted people who $10,000 is nothing to them. $10,000 to them is nothing. It's not important. If they lost 10 grand, it's just gone. They don't care. That is a whole other degree of wealth that I am unfortunately not a part of. And for them, keeping $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in Coinbase is not a big deal. That's not the situation I'm in. And so for me, if it hits $1,000 in Coinbase, I'm getting worried about it. All right. Mimsy Wim, Zachary, would you please develop and customize setup for those who need you to just take our crypto and watch over it for us? For me, for instance, I have to press into God and saving souls. Mimsy, the unfortunate part is it's just a very odd legal landscape. Mimsy, I've thought about that one because I would have no problem being the person who was keeping everybody's passcode safe and everything of that nature. I know exactly what to do. I've even thought through exactly how I would do it. The problem is, Mimsy, it's not that it's not doable. It's actually very easy. I could very easily do it. And it would just be easy and simple contracts that would make for a very simple process for everyone out there to have crypto holdings without having to learn anything about crypto. The problem is Zester's probably going to end up sitting inside a 10 by 10 on account of that. And unfortunately, I am a little too pretty for prison. A little too pretty for prison, I think. And so in that regard, I wish it was possible, Mimsy. I know exactly how to do it. All right. Yeah. Here's your teaching tool app, the Crazy Kryptonaut. Yeah, exactly. You can come right on over, watch Crazy Kryptonaut show. I answer questions the vast majority of every show. That's what I'm doing. Philip Wiseman, so true, Zester. Back in the teens, it's very difficult to move crypto around. I would give my brother the cash and he would buy it for me. I had 1,000 XRP in on his Coinbase when he passed. Yep. I'm very, very sorry to hear about his passing, Philip Wiseman. But it is. That's a very, very, very normal thing that I've heard in regards to finding somebody who had really done a serious deep dive on how it all works. It's getting so much easier. It's going to be crazy easy very, very soon. Crazy, crazy easy. Tanya Shkara, Zester, can I have 2 Uphold access or accounts and move my XRP over to the second new account? Lost my security words. No, Tanya. Losing the security words is definitely a bummer. I would highly recommend, Tanya, while you still have access to that account, get it out of there. And so if you ever lose access or think you're going to be losing access, you need to get that crypto out of Uphold. Now, Tanya, that doesn't mean you can't go back to Uphold, but for right now, if I were going to say, what thing do you need to be doing, Tanya? You need to be getting that crypto out of Uphold. Then we can worry about whether we're going back to Uphold or not. Biggest thing, most important thing is just making certain you don't lose what you got. And so the best way to make certain you don't lose what you got is to just go get an account on something like Coinbase. Go get a Coinbase account, transfer from your current Uphold over to the Coinbase, see it over there in Coinbase, send test transactions to make certain that you did it all right. So send $1 first. Once it shows up properly, then maybe you send some more. But that would be the initial steps I would take, Tanya. My first step would be getting out of the burning building. We can't worry about how we're going to put the fire out until we're not inside of the fire. And so, Tanya, not financial advice, consult with yada, yada, yada. But my first step would be getting that crypto out. Not worrying about whether I'm going to be storing it on Uphold in the future. I would just be getting it out of there. And then we can sit back in peace and we can figure out where we want to store it long term. All right. Country Chick, does our cryptocurrency need to be on a Web3 wallet or is the Ledger Nano okay? Great question, Country Chick, because Web3 screws with everybody. Web3 screws with everybody. It is one of those terms that's just gotten crazy confusing. And so, Country Chick, you don't need to worry about a Web3 wallet or not. What a Web3 wallet really means is that it is interconnectable with the decentralized applications and software of Web3. What does that mean? That just means, essentially, I can connect this wallet to a online decentralized or centralized service. It's Web3 compatible. The Ledger Nano is Web3 compatible with many different platforms. Web3 is really just a tech buzzword, if we want to be entirely fair about it. And so like a little decentralized software programs known as decentralized applications, those are probably the most well-known utilization of Web3. It's an interactive web, an interactive wallet. Your Ledger Nano X is or S Plus or whatever is perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. If you ever needed a Web3 wallet and your crypto is sitting on the ledger, this is what I do. Just so everyone knows what I do, actually, maybe that would be the best way of describing it. If I need a Web3 wallet, I go over to MetaMask. MetaMask is a Web3 wallet. And so, say situation occurs, Zester needs access to a Web3 wallet. I need some crypto to be inside of that wallet. What is Zester going to do? I am going to go and spin up a free wallet on MetaMask. It's going to take me about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to transfer from my Ledger, my hardware wallet, to that Web3 software wallet. I'm going to go out. I'm going to do whatever it is that I was here to do, whether that's exchange or trade or stake or whatever that may be. And then when I'm done, I'm going to transfer all the crypto from that MetaMask Web3 wallet back to my Ledger Nano X. And so I'm still going to end up at the same, what was it? And when we were kids and there would be tag on the playground, there would be the save spot, it'd be a tree or whatever else that if you have your hand on that, nobody can touch you, nobody can tag you. It would be the same idea, essentially. I would take it and move it all the way back to the Ledger Nano X. That's my safe place. That's my safe place in the long run. But you don't need to worry about that one at all, country chick. So I hope that helped. Tina, do I need a cold wallet and hardware wallet, and why? Best hardware at reasonable cost in your opinion? Best hardware at reasonable cost, in my opinion, is the Ledger Nano S Plus. But the more important question, do you need one? Tina, it is all a matter of it's all relative, in all honesty. Tina, if I were advising someone, and of course, this is in no way professional advice, but if you have an amount of cryptocurrency, as in it is thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars or whatever that number may be for you personally, but it is a number that you desperately do not want to lose, and it is a part of your long-term financial planning, I would recommend that you have it on a hardware wallet. Now, if you've got $200 of crypto, keep it on Coinbase. Don't go buy a $70 hardware wallet to store $200 of crypto. I think that just goes without saying. I don't buy or have a wallet that is more expensive than the amount of money I can afford to put in it. And that's why I've still got a hand-me-down wallet that I've had for at least a decade now. Because of exactly that. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. I don't need it to do anything more than what it currently does. Just keep that in mind, Tina. As you're looking at that process, you don't need to be worried about having crypto on exchanges. You just need to have a strategy and a plan. When is it not my daily spending money? And when is it me planning towards a long-term future? If it has entered into that realm and you're making regular purchases of crypto, I highly recommend at that point that you start looking at a hardware wallet. But no, I don't think a lot of folks get started in crypto and they feel like they need a hardware wallet right off the bat. You don't. It is a advanced step. You go through, learn about crypto, buy cryptos, trade crypto, work with crypto inside of centralized exchanges and software wallets, and then you look at getting a hardware wallet. One of those cart horse type situations. All right, guys. Oh man, well, we are at 2 hours. Man, I get to just enjoying it. I'll answer one or two more questions, and then I will let everyone run off for their day. I will be back, of course, on Monday answering more. Oh man, we got a really fiery troll over there in Rumble at the moment. Oh man, that person's having one heck of a bad day, I suppose. One heck of a bad day. All right. Yeah, here's a good one. This is a great final question to go out on because there's actually a lot more here to kind of dig into. Philip Wiseman. Years ago, exchanges would require you to leave 20 XRP in your account to keep it open. Philip. And so this is actually very, very unique to XRP and XLM because of how they work. And so because they work off of a consensus mechanism, they actually have this very odd thing where XRP, and this has changed now, just so you know, it used to be 20 XRP. And you had to have 20 XRP in a wallet to make the wallet live. And the wallet could never have less than 20 XRP in it. That's how it was working. And then they moved that number down to 10. And then you had to have 10 XRP inside of a wallet in order for the wallet to be active. And now they've moved it down to you need 1 XRP inside of the wallet for it to be active. And so, Philip, this is actually a very much unique to XRP thing. No other crypto has this, or none of the other big ones. Ethereum, Bitcoin, all of these other big dogs, they don't have any of those odd rules. But XRP does. And so, with XRP, that used to be the requirement, is that you had to leave a certain amount inside of the exchange. In all honesty, Philip, that really was just the exchanges kind of scamming you and making a bunch of extra free money, because exchanges don't keep your crypto in an individual wallet for you. When you send Ethereum to Coinbase, what you're actually doing is you're just sending your Ethereum and you're putting it in their wallet. And so it all goes into the giant pool of all the rest of the Ethereum that they're controlling. And that's not how XRP and XLM are designed to work. That's why you have things like memo addresses that are required for XRP. That's why you have that. It's actually a designed thing in regards to XRP and XLM, that they have that memo line or that destination address. And so, yes, on that one, that was very much the thing. That was very much a unique thing to XRP. It is now down to just 1 that is required. Van Man, Coinbase has a 24-word phrase. No, it does not. Coinbase does not have a 24-word phrase because Coinbase is an exchange. It's not a wallet. Now, there is the Coinbase wallet out there. Guys, do not touch that thing. Do not touch it. Do not look at it. It's horrible. The Coinbase wallet is a software-free decentralized wallet. It's absolutely terrible. Do not use it. But it's very important to remember, because that confuses people. When I talk about Coinbase, I am talking about Coinbase, the exchange. I'm not talking about Coinbase, the wallet. Coinbase, the wallet, if I were having to give it, an amount of stars out of 1 to 5, it gets -5 stars. Is how many stars Coinbase wallet gets. It's an entirely separate enterprise, owned by the same company, but operated entirely separate. They're just using the Coinbase name, in all honesty. And so, with that one, thank you guys so much. We are at 2 hours and 8 minutes. I hope everyone had an enjoyable show today. I really enjoyed getting to chat with Mr. C. And I will be back on Monday, and so we won't have Pops back until Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning will be the first show back with Pops. Hopefully, we'll have Andy. I'll get to jump in and chat about some crypto stuff at the end of the show on Wednesday. But otherwise, you'll be seeing my face again on Monday and Tuesday morning. I believe Monday, we've actually got a very, very interesting one with Dr. Max Justice, the mushroom farmer, coming on. Folks are going to be extremely knowledgeable in the community about mushrooms, and so I'm looking forward to that one on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I think we might go into, of course, as I say this, guys, we're going to go through all the news of the day as well. But we may also do a little bit of a deep dive on the Greater American Strategy. The Greater American Strategy. Fortress America, it ties in to what's going on in terms of the Greater Israel theory. It ties in to the control of all of the different major shipping lanes, and it reveals the massive, and for the first time, the United States has had a major strategic shift since during the Cold War. I really want to chat about that one, and I'm pretty certain Tuesday may be the day. Everybody will have to put on their thinking caps for that one and see if y'all agree with me on where everything might be going or what might be happening. But I'm going to quit rambling on. Everybody go off. Enjoy your weekend. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining I will see you again on Monday. Peace, y'all.